The Zethran had arrived, and their presence was as overwhelming as it was chilling. Clad in iridescent armor that flickered in the sunlight, they towered over the human soldiers, who stood frozen in disbelief. News broadcasts captured the initial invasion with footage of the Zethran landing, showcasing their technologically superior ships descending from the skies like ominous omens. The world watched in a mix of horror and fascination, as the alien commanders openly mocked humanity's defenses. "Primitive weapons!" they sneered, their voices booming through the airwaves. "These rifles are nothing but toys! Your world is ours for the taking!" The mocking laughter echoed across cities, punctuated by the explosions of their plasma weaponry that lit the sky. Buildings crumbled, and the cries of the wounded filled the air, drowning out the Zethrans' derisive comments. Panic swept through military headquarters, as commanders scrambled to devise a strategy against an enemy that had already laid waste to major urban centers. Within the chaos, a sense of helplessness loomed over humanity. Soldiers armed with rifles, standard-issue firearms, faced advanced energy shields that absorbed bullets without a trace. Attempts to repel the Zethran were futile, as their energy weapons cut through armored vehicles as if they were made of paper. The battlefield became a graveyard for human ingenuity, leaving military leaders grappling with the realization that their decades of preparation were inadequate against a foe so technologically advanced. In the heart of this turmoil, whispers began to spread about a lone figure known only as the Ghost. Captain Ian Mercer, an elite marksman from a secret military unit, was said to possess an uncanny ability to defy the odds. The Zethran may have mocked humanity's weapons, but Mercer had a deep understanding of ballistics and an unyielding determination to protect his home. As cities fell and armies retreated, Mercer watched from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. He had spent years honing his skills, mastering the art of long-range shooting. In a world where technology had outpaced human capability, he had learned to think differently, to exploit weaknesses where others saw only hopelessness. Mercer knew that if he could get close enough to the Zethran's command structure, he could begin to turn the tide. The key was patience, precision, and a bit of luck. The first significant breakthrough came when Mercer's team, made up of a select group of soldiers with unique skills, infiltrated a Zethran command post on the outskirts of a besieged city. They moved under the cover of night, each member aware of their role and the stakes at play. As they approached the command structure, the tension was palpable. They knew that any mistake could spell doom not just for them, but for the entire mission. From his concealed position, Mercer surveyed the area through the scope of his rifle, analyzing the layout with a focus that had become second nature. The Zethran, confident in their defenses, had left gaps in their security. They relied on their technology to protect them, oblivious to the threat posed by a mere human with a rifle. Mercer's heart raced as he waited for the right moment to pull the trigger. "No," he whispered to himself as he took a steady breath, aligning his shot with the Zethran officer standing just outside the command post. The crack of his rifle echoed in the silence, a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding him. The officer dropped, and the Zethran guards scrambled, momentarily thrown into disarray. This was the opening they needed. Mercer and his team quickly capitalized on the chaos, striking at their designated targets with a precision that was almost surgical. They moved like shadows, slipping in and out of cover, always staying one step ahead of the alien soldiers trying to regroup. Each successful strike bolstered their confidence, and soon the whispers of Mercer's prowess spread like wildfire through the human ranks. The Zethran began to realize that they were not merely facing a disorganized group of humans, but a well-coordinated unit with a skilled marksman leading the charge. Their arrogance faltered, and for the first time, doubt crept into the minds of their commanders. Mercer had become a ghost haunting their ranks, a relentless specter who defied their expectations and challenged their superiority. As reports of his exploits spread, the human forces began to rally. Inspired by Mercer's unyielding spirit, soldiers who had once cowered in fear began to find courage. The mocking laughter of the Zethran faded, replaced by a palpable tension in the air. The tides of battle were slowly shifting, and the Zethran commanders knew they had underestimated their foe. Each bullet Mercer fired was not just a shot, it was a message, a reminder that humanity would not go quietly into the night. Mercer understood the importance of striking fear into the hearts of the Zethran. The psychological impact of his actions weighed heavily on their morale, and the once overconfident aliens now fought with uncertainty. Every time a Zethran officer fell, it resonated through their ranks, sowing discord and panic. As the missions continued, the Zethrans' disdain began to turn into frustration. They dispatched units to hunt down the elusive Marksman, but each attempt was thwarted. Mercer's knowledge of the terrain and guerrilla tactics made him a formidable adversary. He had effectively become a one-man army, proving that humanity's greatest weapon was not its technology, but its spirit. With each victory, Mercer and his team became symbols of resistance. Their efforts were transforming the battlefield from one of despair to one of hope. The Zethran, once viewed as invincible, were now on the defensive, struggling to comprehend the fierce resilience of their human opponents. As the first month of the invasion drew to a close, Mercer stood atop a ridge overlooking a recent battleground. The landscape was littered with the remnants of Zethran technology, a stark reminder of what they had faced. A newfound determination filled him as he gazed into the distance, knowing that the fight was far from over. But for the first time since the invasion began, he felt a sense of optimism. Humanity was rising, and together they would reclaim their world from the clutches of an alien empire that had underestimated them from the very start. As the sun rose over the war-torn landscape, Captain Ian Mercer and his team gathered in a makeshift command center deep in the woods. Their operations had grown increasingly daring, targeting Zethran command posts and supply lines. Each successful mission elevated morale among the human forces, and Mercer knew they were onto something big. The key now was to maintain momentum and capitalize on the Zethrans' underestimation of human tactics. "All right, listen up," Mercer said, addressing his team of skilled soldiers. "We've made a name for ourselves, but the Zethran are taking notice. They're smart and will adapt, but we have the advantage of unpredictability. We need to keep them guessing." He outlined their next operation, infiltrating a Zethran supply depot that held critical resources for their invasion efforts. Intelligence suggested that the depot was lightly guarded, with Zethran forces focused on hunting down Mercer's unit. This presented a golden opportunity. The plan was simple but risky: strike fast, eliminate the guards, and destroy as much as possible before the Zethran could react. Mercer and his team moved under the cover of darkness, approaching the depot with careful precision. The moonlight illuminated the shadows, allowing them to navigate through the trees undetected. As they neared the facility, Mercer peered through his scope, assessing the layout and identifying potential entry points. "2 guards at the entrance, another 4 patrolling the perimeter," he whispered, noting their movements. "We take them out silently, then split up. Mark, you and Lisa will disable the security cameras. Jake, you're with me. We'll head inside and plant explosives. We'll have less than 5 minutes before they figure out something's wrong, so we need to move." The team nodded in agreement, adrenaline coursing through their veins as they prepared for the operation. In swift, fluid motions, they executed their plan. Mercer led Jake in a stealthy approach, dispatching the first guard with a silenced shot. The sound of the rifle blended into the night, barely noticeable to the others. They quickly moved to take out the second guard before slipping through the entrance. Inside the depot, the air was thick with tension. Mercer and Jake navigated through aisles of crates and supplies, identifying the best spots to plant explosives. With meticulous care, they set their charges while keeping an eye on the exit. Every second felt like an eternity as they worked, but the thrill of the mission pushed them forward. Outside, Mark and Lisa disabled the security cameras, ensuring that their movements would go unnoticed for as long as possible. They maintained communication with Mercer, updating him on the situation as they prepared for extraction. Time was running short, and the urgency of their task intensified with each passing moment. Mercer's instincts kicked in, and he sensed a shift in the atmosphere. "Jake, hurry up. I think they're onto us." Just as he finished speaking, a distant alarm blared, echoing through the depot. The Zethran had discovered the guards and were beginning to respond. "Explosives are set," Jake called out, a hint of panic in his voice. Mercer nodded, his mind racing as he calculated their next move. Let's go! They dashed toward the exit, but not before Mercer took one last look around. We can't leave empty-handed. He spotted a crate marked with Zethran insignia. Cover me! Jake positioned himself, rifle raised, while Mercer swiftly opened the crate, revealing an array of advanced weaponry, plasma grenades and energy rifles. Mercer grabbed a few, stashing them in his pack. This'll give us an edge, he said, determination fueling his every action. They burst through the entrance, just as Zethran soldiers converged on the depot. Mercer's heart raced, but his focus remained sharp. We need to split up, he shouted, gesturing to the forest. Regroup at the fallback point. Mercer and Jake sprinted into the tree-line, bullets whizzing past them as they dodged enemy fire. The Zethran soldiers, clad in their sleek armor, shouted orders in their alien language, their superior numbers making them confident. But Mercer and his team were not about to be overwhelmed. Drawing on their training, they employed guerrilla tactics, using the terrain to their advantage. Mercer and Jake zigzagged through the trees, picking off Zethran soldiers with calculated shots. Each bullet that found its mark boosted their confidence, reminding them that even in the face of overwhelming odds, they could prevail. Meanwhile, Mark and Lisa navigated their own escape route, utilizing their knowledge of the area to avoid detection. The forest was a labyrinth of shadows, providing the perfect cover. Mercer felt a surge of pride knowing they were all working together, their instincts honed through countless missions. After what felt like an eternity, they reached the fallback point, a secluded area where they could regroup and assess their situation. Breathless but exhilarated, they quickly shared their successes and failures. Mercer glanced at the explosives on his pack, knowing they had achieved their objective but aware that the fight was far from over. Now we wait, he said, pulling out a small device to trigger the explosives remotely. The rest of the team gathered around him, anticipation hanging in the air. We've done our part. Let's make sure the Zethran remember tonight. With a steady hand, Mercer pressed the button. The earth shook as a massive explosion erupted from the depot, illuminating the night sky. Flames shot up into the air, and the shockwave rippled through the trees. In that moment, the Zethran knew they had suffered a significant blow. Let's get back to base, Mercer ordered, adrenaline still coursing through their veins. We need to prepare for their response. As they navigated the forest back to safety, the team felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had struck a powerful blow against the Zethran, and their unity had proven stronger than ever. The Marksman who had once been a ghost now stood as a beacon of hope for humanity, a living testament that even the most technologically advanced adversary could be challenged with cunning, skill, and relentless determination. Their victories inspired a rallying cry among human forces, spurring others to join the fight against the Zethran. The tide of war was beginning to shift, and Mercer knew they had only scratched the surface of what was possible. The Zethran had laughed at Earth's rifles, but they would soon learn that humanity's true weapon was its indomitable spirit. Captain Ian Mercer stood at the makeshift command center, surrounded by a mix of his loyal team and a few high-ranking officers. The air was charged with anticipation after their successful raid on the Zethran supply depot. The room buzzed with conversations strategizing their next move against the alien forces that had underestimated humanity. Mercer's reputation as the Ghost had spread, igniting hope in the hearts of soldiers across the planet. We've proven we can hit them hard, Mercer began, pacing in front of the holographic display of the battlefield. But they're not going to take our attacks lightly. Expect retaliation. He gestured at the Zethran positions scattered across the map, identifying their strongholds. They'll consolidate their forces and come back at us with everything they've got. An officer chimed in. We need to capitalize on our momentum. If we can disrupt their communications, it will confuse their command structure and slow their response time. Mercer nodded thoughtfully. Agreed. We'll target their main communication hub located on the outskirts of the city. If we can take it down, we might cripple their ability to coordinate a counteroffensive. This will buy us precious time. The team began drafting a plan, assigning roles based on each member's strengths. Mark, you'll take point on the infiltration team, Mercer said, his eyes sharp. Your experience with stealth operations will be crucial. Lisa, you'll work with Mark to disable their security systems. Jake, you and I will focus on providing cover fire and dealing with any hostiles that pop up. We'll move quickly, strike hard, and get out before they realize what hit them. As they discussed tactics, Mercer felt a wave of responsibility wash over him. The weight of his men's lives rested on his shoulders, and he was determined not to fail them. Remember, this is not just about defeating the Zethran, he continued. It's about showing them that humanity can adapt, that we won't back down. Every soldier out there needs to see our resilience. The next night, Mercer's team made their way to the outskirts of the city, the air thick with tension. They moved under the cover of darkness, employing the same stealth tactics that had served them well before. The Zethran facility loomed ahead, its angular design reflecting the moonlight. Mercer felt the adrenaline surging through him, a familiar sensation that honed his senses. They approached the communication hub, its guards oblivious to the threat lurking nearby. Mercer took a moment to survey the area through his scope. 2 guards at the entrance, another set on patrol, he whispered, relaying the information to his team. We'll take them out silently and proceed inside. The first shot rang out, precise and lethal, as Mercer picked off one of the guards. Jake quickly followed suit, ensuring the other was down before they moved forward. Lisa and Mark slipped into the facility, swiftly disabling the security cameras. Inside, the hum of technology filled the air, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. Let's make this quick, Mercer urged, his instincts driving him forward. They navigated through the dimly lit corridors, guided by the faint sound of machinery. Their objective was clear: locate the main server room and plant explosives to cripple Zethran communications. As they approached the server room, they encountered a squad of Zethran soldiers, their advanced weaponry gleaming ominously. Mercer's heart raced, but he remained calm. We'll need to take them out quietly. No alarms, he instructed. The team nodded, and with practiced precision, they executed a coordinated attack. The element of surprise worked in their favor, and within moments, the Zethran soldiers lay incapacitated. Mercer moved swiftly to the server, while Mark and Lisa kept watch at the door. Time was critical. They needed to finish their task before the Zethran realized they were under attack. Mercer worked quickly, planting the explosives while keeping one eye on the corridor. The tension was palpable as he finished the setup and stepped back, ready to trigger the charges. We're done here! Time to go! He called out, and the team retreated down the corridor. As they reached the exit, alarms blared throughout the facility, the Zethran finally aware of the breach. They know we're here! Jake shouted, adrenaline surging. Mercer cursed under his breath, knowing they had to move faster. Mark, Lisa, take the left exit. Jake, with me, he commanded. The group split, darting in different directions as Zethran soldiers poured into the building. Mercer and Jake sprinted down the hall, narrowly avoiding incoming fire. The Zethran soldiers were quick and well-trained, but Mercer's team had the advantage of surprise and their fierce determination. Through here! Mercer shouted, leading Jake into a maintenance corridor. They could hear the chaos behind them as Zethran soldiers frantically searched for them. The faint sound of gunfire echoed through the halls, a reminder that their window for escape was closing. Finally, they emerged into the night air, the city lights twinkling in the distance. Mercer quickly triggered the explosives remotely. The ground shook as the facility erupted in flames, smoke billowing into the sky. The bright flash illuminated their path, and the ensuing explosion sent shockwaves through the area, creating panic among the Zethran. Now we regroup! Mercer yelled, scanning the area for Mark and Lisa. They had executed their part flawlessly, emerging from the shadows just as the explosion lit up the sky. Did you get out in time? Mercer asked, breathing heavily. Just barely, Mark replied, eyes wide with excitement. That was incredible! They didn't know what hit them. Lisa grinned, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Let's get back to base and report. We've made a significant impact tonight. As they made their way back through the darkness, Mercer felt a sense of pride swell within him. They had struck a decisive blow against the Zethran, their unity and courage proving that humanity could stand its ground against the odds. This victory would resonate throughout the ranks of the human forces, instilling a newfound confidence in their ability to fight back. Once they returned to base, Mercer quickly debriefed their superiors, detailing the success of the operation. The news spread quickly, and their victory became a rallying cry for the remaining forces. Soldiers across the globe began to see hope, inspired by the actions of Mercer's team. Days turned into weeks as the war raged on, but with each battle, humanity's resolve strengthened. Mercer's tactical genius and the skills of his team turned the tide against the Zethran. They became symbols of defiance, proving that even the most advanced alien technology could falter in the face of human tenacity. The Zethran, once convinced of their superiority, now found themselves on the defensive. Mercer's guerrilla tactics disrupted their plans, and with every engagement, humanity's confidence soared. The Zethran learned to fear the name of the Ghost, and whispers spread among their ranks about the deadly Marksman who had brought terror to their forces. As the final confrontation loomed, Mercer knew the time had come to make one last stand. The Zethran would not just be defeated, they would be made to understand the depths of human resilience. The war had transformed him and his team into something greater than soldiers. They were warriors fueled by the indomitable spirit of humanity, standing firm against the forces of oppression. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a fiery glow over the battlefield as Mercer's forces prepared for the final confrontation with the Zethran. The air buzzed with tension and anticipation, soldiers moving with a sense of purpose that had grown from weeks of hard-fought victories. Despite the casualties, the morale of the human forces surged, inspired by the audacious guerrilla tactics and successes against their seemingly invincible enemy. Mercer stood at the front, surveying his troops, the weight of leadership heavy on his shoulders. "We're not just fighting for survival," he began, addressing the assembled soldiers, his voice steady and unwavering. "We're fighting for our homes, our families, and our future. The Zethran thought they could come here and conquer us without consequence. They've learned the hard way that humanity will not go quietly into the night." His words resonated through the ranks, igniting a fire in the hearts of his soldiers. They had come to see him as not just a commander, but a symbol of hope. Mercer had faced the Zethran's ridicule and emerged victorious, a living testament to human ingenuity and courage. "Today, we strike at the heart of their command. We will show them that every inch they've taken from us will be reclaimed, that their arrogance will be their downfall." With the strategy laid out, the soldiers prepared to move. Mercer's plan involved hitting the Zethran command center, a heavily fortified location that served as the nerve center for their operations on Earth. "We'll split into 3 teams," he instructed, detailing the attack. "Mark and Lisa will lead the diversionary strike. Create chaos, draw their attention away from our main goal. Jake and I will infiltrate the command center and neutralize their leadership." As they moved toward the Zethran stronghold, the adrenaline coursed through Mercer's veins, sharpening his focus. He could feel the weight of the moment, knowing that this operation would determine the fate of humanity. The Zethran's advanced technology loomed ahead, and Mercer's resolve only strengthened at the sight of their menacing structures. "Stay sharp," he reminded his team. "We know how to navigate their defenses, but we can't afford to underestimate them." The plan commenced without a hitch, with Mark and Lisa executing their part flawlessly. Explosions erupted at the perimeter of the Zethran stronghold, sending guards scrambling to respond. Mercer and Jake took advantage of the chaos, slipping through the gaps in the defenses. As they maneuvered through the shadows, Mercer's mind raced with strategies, anticipating the Zethran's reactions, exploiting every weakness. "Now's our chance," Mercer whispered as they approached the command center entrance. "Stick to the plan. We're here to take down their leaders." He moved stealthily, his rifle ready as he prepared for any confrontation. Inside, the command center buzzed with activity. Zethran officers shouted orders, unaware that their ranks were about to be shattered. Mercer and Jake moved with precision, their training and experience guiding them as they navigated the halls, ensuring silence with every step. Mercer focused on the sound of voices, leading them to the central chamber where the Zethran commanders congregated, their arrogance palpable as they discussed the impending victory over humanity. "I'll take the two on the left," Mercer said, gauging the distance and angles. "You handle the one on the right." Jake nodded, positioning himself. With synchronized timing, they struck. Mercer's rifle barked twice, and the Zethran commanders fell without a sound. Jake followed suit, dispatching the third officer, ensuring no alarm could be raised. As the adrenaline surged, Mercer moved to the main console. The Zethran had relied on their advanced technology, but he understood their systems well enough to disrupt their operations. "Let's make this quick," he instructed, fingers flying over the console as he hacked into their network. Outside, the diversion was working perfectly. Mark and Lisa's team kept the Zethran forces occupied, engaging in fierce combat while drawing attention away from Mercer and Jake. The sounds of explosions and gunfire echoed through the stronghold, fueling the chaos. With every second that passed, Mercer could feel their advantage growing. "Mercer, we don't have much time," Jake warned, glancing nervously at the door. "They'll realize something's wrong." "I'm almost in," Mercer replied, adrenaline sharpening his focus. "We need to disable their communication and redirect their energy reserves. If we can cripple their ability to coordinate, we can turn the tide of this battle." Finally, he gained access to the core systems. With calculated efficiency, Mercer initiated the shutdown protocols, targeting their energy grid and communication systems. Alarms began blaring as the command center's status shifted from operational to emergency mode. The Zethran were finally aware of the breach. "Let's move!" Mercer shouted, slinging his rifle over his shoulder as he prepared to exit. Just as they turned to leave, a squad of Zethran soldiers stormed in, weapons raised and eyes filled with fury. "Jake, cover me!" Mercer shouted, taking aim as Jake fired back. The air crackled with energy and noise as they exchanged fire with the aliens. Mercer's heart raced. He was used to being the hunter, not the hunted, and he needed to regain control of the situation. With expert precision, he targeted the Zethran soldiers, picking them off one by one. Each shot found its mark, his training and instincts kicking in. "We need to get out of here!" Jake shouted, firing his weapon as they fell back toward the exit. The chaos escalated, and the Zethran began to panic as they realized their command center was in disarray. "Go, go, go!" Mercer urged, leading the way through the halls as explosions rocked the building. The Zethran were relentless, but Mercer and Jake moved with purpose, dodging incoming fire and staying one step ahead of their pursuers. As they emerged into the open air, Mercer felt a surge of relief. The chaos outside was palpable, and the sight of Mark and Lisa's team fighting valiantly inspired him. "We're out! Let's regroup with the others," he called out, adrenaline still pumping through him as they sprinted toward the makeshift rally point. The battlefield had transformed into a swirling vortex of combat, humanity's forces pushing back against the Zethran in a desperate struggle. As they regrouped, Mercer surveyed the scene, recognizing that their assault on the command center had thrown the enemy into disarray. "We have them on the ropes," he declared, rallying the troops. "Now is our chance to drive them back." The human forces surged forward, inspired by the success of Mercer's team. The Zethran, once so confident in their superiority, faltered as the tide turned against them. Mercer fought alongside his men, pushing deeper into the heart of the enemy position, a mix of anger and determination fueling his actions. Then came the moment of truth. Mercer spotted a massive Zethran general, towering over his soldiers, barking orders in a language that twisted the air. Mercer knew this was the leader who had underestimated humanity, the one who had mocked their weaponry and tactics. This was the chance to confront the embodiment of the Zethran's arrogance. "Jake, cover me," Mercer instructed, moving toward the general with purpose. He could feel the eyes of his comrades on him, a mix of fear and hope. As he advanced, the Zethran soldiers attempted to intercept him, but he maneuvered with precision, his marksmanship honed through countless battles. "Human! You think you can defeat me?" the general bellowed, raising a weapon designed for destruction. Mercer didn't respond. Instead, he took aim, focusing on the small vulnerabilities in the general's energy shield, weaknesses he had studied meticulously. With a steady breath, Mercer pulled the trigger, the shot ringing out across the battlefield. The bullet struck true, piercing through the gaps in the Zethran's defenses. The general staggered, shock etched across his features, before collapsing to the ground. The morale of the Zethran forces plummeted, their confidence shattered as they witnessed the fall of their leader. The moment reverberated through the battlefield, igniting the human forces. "Push forward!" Mercer shouted, urging his men to capitalize on the disarray. They surged ahead, the sound of gunfire blending with shouts of victory. The Zethran, once a force of overwhelming might, began to retreat in chaos. As the battle raged, Mercer stood tall amidst the chaos, witnessing the culmination of their efforts. The Zethran had underestimated humanity's resolve, their dismissal of Earth's warriors now a bitter lesson learned. The cries of victory echoed across the battlefield as humanity pushed the invaders back, reclaiming their world inch by inch. In the days that followed, the remnants of the Zethran were driven from Earth. The victory became a turning point, a story of resilience and tenacity that would be told for generations. Mercer was hailed as a hero, not just for his actions on the battlefield, but for embodying the spirit of humanity itself. He knew that this victory would not erase the scars left by the invasion, but it would mark the beginning of a new era. As humanity rallied to rebuild, they carried with them the knowledge that they could stand against even the most formidable foes. The Zethran would spread the tale of their defeat, a cautionary story echoed throughout the galaxy. Never underestimate the human with a rifle. Mercer gazed out over the horizon, the setting sun a symbol of hope for the future. They had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, and the spirit of humanity would endure, ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead.